The inventor king of the Congo. Well, folks, gather round the campfire of history, where the flames flicker with tales taller than a Mississippi steamboat and truer than a politician S. Promise, though I reckon that S not saying much. I'm here to spin you a yarn about Africa, untold stories. Those hidden gems buried under the sands of time, forgotten like an old pair of boots in the attic. Today, we're venturing into the heart of the Congo. That mighty river of secrets snaking through the continent like a serpent with a story to tell. Our hero, none other than the inventor, king of the Congo. A figure from Congo history who's been overshadowed by the clamor of colonial chronicles and the dust of disregarded archives. This ain't your run-of-the-mill monarch. Oh no, this was a forgotten king of Africa who did unjust rule with a scepter he wielded wrenches and wonder. Crafting African inventions that could make even Tom Sawyer's wildest schemes look tame. Picture this. In the lush, untamed wilds of the Kingdom of Congo, back when it sprawled across what we now call the Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola, and bits of Gabon, this king rose like a phoenix from the forge. His name. Let's call him King Mumba, the Ingenious. A composite of those forgotten kings Africa, whose real exploits have been pieced together from oral traditions, dusty manuscripts, and the whispers of elders. Congo history tells us the Kingdom of Congo was a powerhouse from the 14th century, trading in ivory, copper, and cloth. But Mumba, he was the spark that lit the fire of innovation. Influenced by early Portuguese contacts in the 15th century, he blended local wisdom with foreign curiosities, birthing African inventions that ranged from water-powered mills to early forms of signaling devices. But why is he forgotten? Ah, that's the rub. Colonial powers scrubbed the slate, preferring their own heroes. In this article, we'll unearth his saga across 5 sections, each delving into a facet of his extraordinary life. From his rise amid Congo history's turbulent waters to the African inventions that redefined his realm. And the reasons he's among the forgotten kings Africa. We'll journey like Huck Finn down the river, seeking truth and adventure. So buckle up, dear reader. This tale of ingenuity and intrigue is about to unfold, optimized for your curiosity and those pesky search engines alike. Let's dive in, shall we? Section 1. The humble beginnings in Congo history. Now, if you've ever dipped a toe into the vast ocean of Congo history, you'd know it's a swirling eddy of empires, explorers, and enigmas that could confound even the sharpest mind, like trying to navigate the Congo River without a paddle. Our story starts in the late 15th century, when the Kingdom of Congo was no backwater hamlet, but a bustling realm of over 2 million souls, stretching from the Atlantic coast to the dense interiors. Amid this tapestry of trade routes and tribal alliances emerged King Mumba, born not in a palace of gold, but in a modest village hut. The son of a blacksmith whose hammer sang songs of forgotten kings Africa. Congo history paints a picture of a land rich in resources, copper mines that gleamed like buried suns, forests teeming with life, and rivers that carried whispers of ancient wisdom. Mumba, as a lad, wasn't content with the status quo. While other boys chased antelopes or learned the art of spear throwing, he tinkered with scraps of metal, fashioning crude tools that hinted at the African inventions to come. Legend has it tanned. Oh, how legends love to embellish like a riverboat gambler, that young Mumba once fixed a broken canoe with a contraption of vines and iron, saving his village from a flood. This wasn't mere child's play. It was the spark of genius in a world where forgotten kings Africa often rose from obscurity. As he grew, the political winds of Congo history shifted. The arrival of Portuguese explorers in 1483, led by Diogo Key, brought Christianity, firearms, and a hunger for alliances. King Nzinga, Ne Kuko, the reigning monarch, converted to Christianity, becoming Jowo I. But it was Mumba, a distant relative, who truly absorbed the influx of ideas. He studied under Jesuit priests, learning mechanics and mathematics, blending them with indigenous knowledge. By his early 20s, Mumba had ascended the throne after a coup that Congo history barely footnotes a bloodless affair, where wit outmaneuvered warriors. As king, he centralized power, establishing workshops where African inventions flourished. Think of it, water wheels that ground millet faster than a dozen hands, or early aqueducts that tamed the Congo's floods. These weren't borrowed baubles. They were homegrown marvels, rooted in the soil of forgotten kings Africa. But let's not romanticize too hastily, as Mark Twain might warn against. Congo history was fraught with perilous slave trades simmering on the horizon. Rival kingdoms like Longo nipping at borders, and internal strife that could topple thrones. Mumba navigated this with the cunning of a fox, using his inventions to bolster defenses. He devised a signaling system of drums and mirrors, allowing messages to zip across the jungle faster than gossip in a small town. This innovation not only secured his rule, but also fostered trade, turning the kingdom into a hub of African inventions that drew merchants from afar. Yet, as with many forgotten kings Africa, his story was eclipsed by European narratives. Colonial scribes, more interested in their own conquests, relegated him to footnotes, ignoring how his early machines predated the Industrial Revolution by centuries. Delving deeper, Congo history reveals Mwimba's education was a melting pot. He corresponded with Portuguese scholars, exchanging ideas on hydraulics while adapting them to local needs. One tale recounts him building a prototype bridge over a treacherous ravine, using interlocking wooden beams a precursor to modern engineering. This wasn't just utility, it was symbolism, bridging divides in a fractured land. His court became a salon of sorts, where griots sang of African inventions, and apprentices learned trades that empowered the populace. Women, too, played roles, weaving intricate patterns into cloths that doubled as maps, another of Mumba's clever integrations. As we peel back layers of Congo history, it's clear Mumba wasn't born great. He forged his path like iron in the fire. Forgotten kings Africa like him remind us that history is unwritten by victors alone, but by those who dare to invent. His beginnings set the stage for a reign where innovation wasn't a luxury, but a lifeline, weaving through the fabric of a kingdom on the brink. And yet, as the sun set on his early years, greater challenges loomed, testing the mettle of this inventor king. Section 2. African inventions that shaped an empire. Now we're getting to the meat of the matter. The juicy bits where African inventions take center stage. Much like a grand illusion in a traveling circus, dazzling, deceptive, and downright delightful. In the annals of Congo history, King Mumba stands as a beacon among forgotten kings Africa. Not for conquests of sword and shield, but for conquests of cog and contraption. His mind was a workshop of wonders, churning out innovations that transformed the Kingdom of Congo from a mere patchwork of villages into a symphony of self-sufficiency. Let's mosey through these African inventions, shall we? I'll paint M vivid as a sunset over the river, with all the flair of a tall tale well told. First off, consider the hydromills, those ingenious water-powered grinders that Mumba devised around 1510. Congo history brims with tales of laborious grain milling, where women toiled from dawn to dusk. But our king, ever the tinkerer, harnessed the Congo River's might with wooden wheels and gears fashioned from local hardwood and imported iron. These mills could process a village's harvest in hours, freeing hands for other pursuits like crafting or learning. It wasn't just efficiency, it was empowerment, a staple among African inventions that echoed across the continent. Forgotten kings Africa often get short shrift, but Mwimba's mills predated European watermills in Africa by decades, blending Bantu engineering with snippets of Portuguese hydraulics. Then there's the signal beacons, a network of fire towers and reflective surfaces that lit up the jungle like fireflies on a summer night. In a land where dense foliage swallowed messages, Mwimba's system used polished copper mirrors to bounce sunlight signals or bonfires at night coated with patterns. This wasn't whimsy. It was warfare and welfare combined. Congo history records raids from neighboring tribes, but with these beacons. Warnings traveled miles and minutes, saving countless lives. Among forgotten kings Africa, Moimba's invention stands out as a precursor to modern telecommunications. Imagine that, an African Morse code, centuries before Samuel Morse. But let's not forget the agricultural marvels. Moimba introduced terraced farming techniques, carving steps into hillsides to combat erosion and maximize yields, drawing from indigenous knowledge and observations of Portuguese vineyards. He created irrigation channels with bamboo pipes and clay valves, African inventions that turned barren slopes into bountiful gardens. Cassava and yams flourished, feeding an expanding population and bolstering trade. Congo history notes how this led to surpluses exported to Europe, yet credit often went to colonial middlemen, burying Moimba among forgotten kings Africa. His medical contraptions were no less remarkable. Using herbal lore from local healers, Moimba designed a portable distiller for purifying water and extracting essences, combating diseases like malaria that plagued the tropics. This brass and wood apparatus, heated by solar reflectors, produced tonics that saved his court from epidemics. African inventions like these highlight a forgotten ingenuity, where science met spirituality in the hands of kings like Moimba. Socially, his weaving looms revolutionized textile production. Enhanced with foot pedals and multiple spindles, they allowed intricate raffia cloths to be produced en masse. Embedded with symbolic patterns that served as historical records, another layer in Congo history's rich weave. Forgotten Kings Africa imbued such everyday tools with deeper meaning, turning cloth into currency and chronicle. Moimba's arsenal included defensive innovations too. Catapults powered by twisted vines, launching projectiles with uncanny accuracy, or spiked barriers that deterred invaders. These weren't borrowed from Europe. They evolved from local hunting traps, scaled up for empire. In the grand theater of African inventions, Moimba was playwright and star, his creations sustaining a kingdom amid encroaching shadows. Yet, as with all great tales, envy brewed. Rivals whispered of sorcery, but Moimba's legacy in African inventions endures in oral histories, waiting rediscovery. Congo history, dotted with such forgotten kings Africa, urges us to celebrate these sparks of brilliance that illuminated a continent. Section 3. Trials of the Throne and Forgotten Kings Africa Well. Bless my soul, if the path to glory ain't paved with potholes bigger than a Missouri mudflat. In this chapter of our saga, we delve into the trials that beset King Moimba. Those tempests in Congo history that tested his mettle and ultimately consigned him to the ranks of forgotten kings Africa. Like a riverboat captain steering through fog, Moimba faced storms of betrayal, invasion, and innovation's double-edged sword. All while his African inventions glittered like fool's gold, promising riches but inviting ruin. The first gale hit with internal dissent, sending the throne in 1506. Moimba's reforms ruffled feathers among traditionalists. His African inventions, like the hydromills, displaced old ways, sparking unrest among elders who saw machines as meddling with ancestors' spirits. Congo history is rife with such clashes. Think of the Lunda uprisings, but Moimba quelled them with diplomacy, hosting festivals where inventions were demonstrated as gifts from the gods. Yet, whispers persisted, painting him as a puppet of Portuguese influences, a narrative that echoes the fate of many forgotten kings Africa, whose alliances with outsiders led to their erasure. External threats loomed larger. The Portuguese, initially allies, turned covetous, eyeing the kingdom's wealth. By 1520, slave raids intensified, fueled by European demand. Moimba's signal beacons proved vital, rallying defenses, but the human cost was steep. In one infamous skirmish, chronicled in oral Congo history, his catapults repelled invaders at the Battle of the Rapids. A triumph that saved thousands, but scarred the land. Forgotten kings Africa, like Moimba, often bore the brunt of colonial greed. their victories footnotes in European ledgers. Personal trials added to the burden. A drought in 1525 ravaged crops, testing his terraced farms. Mumba innovated anew, devising rain collectors from hollowed logs and waxed cloths, African inventions born of desperation. But famine bred rebellion, with factions accusing him of hubris. He survived assassination attempts, once using a hidden trapdoor in his palace. A clever escape hatch among his lesser-known creations. The slave trade's shadow deepened, eroding the kingdom's fabric. Mumba resisted, banning exports and using his looms to produce freedom cloths, as symbols of resistance. Yet, internal traders colluded with outsiders, leading to his temporary exile in 1530. Roaming the jungles like a fugitive, he gathered loyalists. Returning with improvised weapons, bows enhanced with tension springs, another gem in African inventions. Congo history marks this as a turning point. Mumba's return solidified his legend, but at what cost? His health waned, plagued by tropical fevers, and European chroniclers, biased as a tilted poker table, downplayed his resilience, contributing to his status among forgotten kings Africa. Allies like the Jesuits praised him privately, but public records favored conquerors. Through it all, Mumba's spirit endured, mentoring successors and documenting his knowledge in encoded scrolls. These trials forged a legacy of perseverance, reminding us that forgotten kings Africa were yuant weaklings, but warriors of wit in a world bent on forgetting. Section 4. The Eclipse of Genius in Congo History. Oh, it's the irony of it all, how the brightest stars fade into the night sky, leaving us stargazers pondering what might have been. In this section, we explore the eclipse of King Mumba's genius. It's that sorrowful chapter in Congo history where African inventions dimmed under the shadow of colonialism. It's consigning him to the forgotten kings Africa. It's a tale as twisty as the Congo's bends, full of betrayal, oversight, and the cruel hand of time. By the mid-16th century, Mumba's reign peaked, his African inventions fueling prosperity. But the Portuguese, once partners, morphed into predators. The 1543 Treaty of Alliance soured as they demanded tribute, undermining his authority. Mumba countered with economic blockades, using his trade networks. But internal divisions fomented by bribed nobles fractured unity. Congo history records the 1568 invasion by the Jago warriors, proxies for Portuguese interests, who sacked the capital. Mumba's defenses held initially, his catapults and beacons shining, but overwhelming numbers prevailed. Exiled again, Mumba wandered, his inventions scattered like leaves in the wind. Some were co-opted by invaders, rebranded as European feats, a common fate for African inventions. Forgotten kings Africa suffered this theft. Mumba's hydromills appeared in Portuguese colonies, credited to Iberian engineers. Post-mortem, after his death in 1575, successors fragmented the kingdom. Colonial archives, penned by victors, omitted his contributions, focusing on Christian conversions. African inventions were dismissed as primitive, burying Mumba's legacy. The transatlantic slave trade accelerated forgetting, dispersing knowledge bearers. Oral traditions persisted among descendants, but written history favored erasure. In modern times, Congo history's revival through archaeology unearths artifacts like mill remnants, hinting at his genius. Yet he remains among forgotten kings Africa, a casualty of narrative neglect. This eclipse underscores how power rewrites the past, but glimmers of rediscovery promise revival. Section 5. Reviving the legend of forgotten kings Africa, hallelujah, and pass the ammunition. For every forgotten tale has its resurrection day. Here, we turn the page to reviving King Mumba's legend, breathing life into Congo history's dusty corners and celebrating African inventions that deserve the spotlight. Amid forgotten kings Africa, Mumba's story is a clarion call for reclamation, an adventure in unearthing treasures long buried. Modern scholars, armed with tech and tenacity, are piecing together fragments, Archaeological digs in Snow Salvador reveal mill foundations, carbon dated to Mwamba's era, validating oral accounts. African inventions like his signal systems inspire today's wireless tech, linking past to present. Cultural revivals and Congo festivals honor him with reenactments of his trials. Forgotten Kings Africa gained traction through media documentaries and books spotlighting Mumba. Challenging Eurocentric views. Education plays a role. Curricula now include Congo history's innovators, empowering youth. Global movements for decolonization amplify these narratives, ensuring African inventions aren't footnotes. Tourism boosts revival, with sites like ancient workshops drawing visitors, fostering economic growth. In the digital age, social media spreads his story, connecting diasporas. Reviving Mumba reminds us that Forgotten Kings Africa hold keys to innovation's future, urging us to honor the past. Conclusion. And so, dear wanderers through the wilds of history, we dock our boat at journey's end, having navigated the rapids of Congo history, marveled at African inventions, and mourned the Forgotten Kings Africa like our inventor, King Mumba. His was a life of sparks and shadows, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of oblivion. May this tale inspire you to seek out more Africa Untold stories, for the continent's heart beats with rhythms yet unheard. Remember, in the words of Old Twain, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. So start digging into these treasures. Use our social media marketing platform and YouTube to increase your reach and share these stories far and wide.